Hello, good evening, welcome to our front. 99 to pass or not to pass. As proponents and opponents of the anti-gay bill prepare for a showdown, we'll explore the major arguments on both sides and give you a better appreciation of it by the time we conclude this conversation in the next 50 minutes. You welcome back to our front. My name is Raymond Alqua. Today, the General Secretary of the Church on Pentecost, in the company of the eminent clergy, presented their memoranda in support of the bill, which is seeking to promote proper human sexual rights in the country. This bill has been very controversial, as not long ago, some academics and lawyers decided to also oppose the bill, including civil society operatives, insisting that it would affect the human rights of this country and the people who are involved and send us down a path of getting into a lot of trouble. That is the crux of our conversation. Already, I have the General Secretary of the Christian Council with me on phone, and we'll start a conversation with him. Also, one single man who has been responding to the question about whether or not gay rights are human rights also will join us. Professor Vladimir should also be joining this conversation. But first, let me start with Reverend Cyril Fayose. Reverend, you're welcome to our front.
Raymond, good evening. But let me say that your friend, Faustina, I'm Reverend Opuni from I'm a former General Secretary. I'm not the current General Secretary. I'm not serious. Sorry about that.
Very well. I mean, we'll still stay with this conversation with you on this. But basically, the conversation has moved to the level where the various people in support of or opposed to are very much known as we speak. But you in Christendom have been the first to be attacked. The insistence is that you basically are seeking to send us back to periods where the church led the state. And in this case, they believe that we are a secular state and cannot be under the dictates of the church. They believe the bill, which is seeking to promote proper sexual human rights and human rights, really is taking us in that particular path of putting the church in all policy frames, which is contrary to secular rights and secular systems of states.
Raymond, thank you. Let me say good evening to your cherished listeners. And let me say, before I come to the issues raised, that our members of parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, and the sponsors of the bill must be encouraged. They have the support of Ghanaians. They should stay focused. They should not be intimidated by titles and personalities and respond to the national cry of Ghanaians. They are doing what Ghanaians want to be done. Now, Raymond, the issue you are raising about religion and we are a secular state, let me say that we are practicing representative democracy. What we are doing now is representative democracy. Now, members of parliament are representing constituencies and interest in the constituency. And we must know traditional leaders, Muslim leaders, Christian leaders, people like you, media, security, we are all the various interests in the constituencies that my MP is representing in parliament. And therefore, if you have a church like Church of Pentecost and Christian Council that brings so many people together, Office of National Chief Imam and traditional leaders, articulating the voice of the people, you don't say that you are bringing us back. If anything, I thought we are moving forward. How come that when churches and Muslims are into education, you don't complain? When churches are into health, you don't complain. But when we are into things that affect humanity, issues about family, marriage, you come and tell me that we should.
It appears I have a bad line there, so I've lost on the phone the former General Secretary of the Christian Council. the former General Secretary of the Christian Council. I also told you earlier on that there's a question about whether or not gay rights are human rights, which is heavily dealt with in the opposition to the bill in Parliament by the people who are in eminent form academics. But let me speak to Professor Vladimir Chidaso. Prof, you're welcome to UPfront.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
So now it's pretty clear where we are going with this conversation. There is currently a conversation about whether we should respect the rights of people who are homosexuals and in the group of LGBTQ and the other alphabets that follow, because at the core of it is the belief that these are human rights. The basis, they say, is grounded in the Constitution, that it can't be discrimination based on people's sex, gender, and the other things following. Now, what do you say in response to this claim?
Well, you know, this question of LGBTQIAAA and all those co-meanings, I think globally has not been properly focused. It started with a group of people, elite in society, caught the attention of powers that be in Western societies especially, and on and on and on. We want to universalize. And that is why we are having this conversation at all. That's why we are having it as a problem. We needed to ask ourselves, number one, whether it is a human rights issue or some other issue. Number two, whether we can universalize that as a human right. In the first place, if you analyze it from any point of view, logic, academic logic, and that kind of thing, you would realize that it comes from a feeling, somebody feeling that he is a male in female body. Another feeling that he is a female in male body. And then they go on, therefore I will have transsexual, whatever it is. And then on and on and on, the arts form. Nobody is denying them that they don't have a human right. As human beings, whether their noses are at their back or their eyes are at their back, they are human beings and they have a defect. And therefore they have all the human rights noted, the first generation of human rights, political rights, economic rights, cultural rights, and they have all that. Whether their feeling can be made as a human right is what I doubt, and which has not been properly interrogated. Now, if I feel I am an American in a Ghanaian body, is that a human right, or I have a certain condition that should rather be addressed? We haven't focused this thing properly at all, worldwide. And we are being asked to swallow what somebody feels elsewhere. Now, if I feel, let us say that LGBTQI is a human right, and they can marry, they can do whatever they want to do. What if I have a feeling only for my sister, and my sister has a feeling for me? Why is that a crime? Why do you call that incest? Why can't I have human rights on that? It's the same feeling. Or my mother. If I sleep with my mother, and my mother is the only one I love, she loves me. Why is that criminal? And this one is not criminal, and we want to universalize that. Can we universalize incest? What about pedophiles? Those who are interested in children and molest them, sleep with them. And that's the feeling. When they see them, there is something, whatever it is inside them that makes them just go in for children. Would you say those ones don't have human rights? My problem is that the whole world is making a mistake, including the United Nations, which accepted this way back in 1999. That is a human right. That it can be universalized. We are making a mistake of not interrogating ab initio what it meant by human rights. I believe it is not a human right issue. It is at best a medical condition that can be cured. And we can use all means, psychiatric means, Christian or Muslim means, that's the moral means of talking and repairing the damage in those persons, rather than making it an imposition on more than 80 or 90% of the population in the world. The Muslim community will never accept this. Theocratic societies will never accept this. So will traditional society, some like ours. The Christian society will not accept this. So we are trying to impose something on a greater percentage of the population in the world, which cannot be properly designated as human rights. That's where I'm coming from. But as human rights, they have human rights.
Okay.
Whoever says they don't have human rights, I mean, nobody should kill them, nobody should beat them, nobody should harass them just because they are LGBT. But I believe the fact that they feel otherwise, other than normal human beings, in fact, the Q in it means they're queer. So if they themselves say they are queer, how do you universalize something queer? That's where I'm coming from.
Now, the understanding from those who insist their human rights is because, first, their condition was demoted as a medical condition by the recognized bodies, including the WHO.
Yes.
So it then moved from being something that ought to be cured as an abnormality into something that ought to be recognized as people who are different from other people. That is the crux of their conversation, that it might have been seen by people maybe in the 60s or 50s as problematic, but the same science has backed their claim that this is normal and they're just different, and that different people ought to be recognized for who they are and not be discriminated against and not tagged as not having rights in this case. I suspect I lost Dr. Vladimir Chidan, so in the conversation. Now, after this break, my guest will be in studio and we'll explore the Islamic dynamic to this particular conversation too. You're welcome back to our front. My name is Raymond Akwa. So we start this conversation about breaking down the main levers of the current debate on whether or not to pass the bill. This bill is seeking to promote what they consider to be proper human sexual rights and family values in the Republic of Ghana. This has had some competition or opposition from some academics and also civil society players, from those representing the CDD, including the likes of Professor Techiwa Menu, the likes of Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, the likes of Akoto Ampah, who you'll be hearing consistently on this network. It is the crux of the argument that we are testing with those who have actually backed the bill, and also those who are in the conversation for specific reasons. This is because this is a bill that's in Parliament, and today some leading, clergy, rarely presented a memorandum in support of it. The Christian Council is what we started this conversation with, but a man who is competent not only in Islam, but also for his peaceful advocates is with us here. He speaks also for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Aremeyaw Shaibu. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well.
Very well.
How is the Peace Council doing?
The Peace Council is doing very well. I just left the Jubilee House, still trying to make arrangement for the launch of the Peace Fund.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so has been my last engagement before trying hard to reach your place here.
That'll be wonderful. But the other point that I need to find out from you is how the eminent Chief Imam is doing.
Doing very well, healthy, active, peaceful, feeling calm in himself, and still wanting to promote and to keep the nation together.
There's a question, though. I've been asking myself what he thinks about this particular quest, the bill on proper sexual and human rights and family values. What does he think about it?
I refer you to the last visit of the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Bawin. He paid a courtesy call on the Chief Imam. Chief Imam was excited with his coming, and he had heard his earlier statement, his position about the LGBT.
Okay.
Chief Imam commended him on that and asked him to make sure that a bill is passed that will outlaw LGBT and other related sexual orientations in the country. That is a very firm and consistent, constant position with the Muslim community. I have spoken about it, not once, not twice.
Okay.
My opinion has been asked for by journalists from the time when former President Atta Mills made a statement about it, to the time when the current president also spoke about it, the time when the former president, His Excellency John Mahama, spoke about it. And we've all bagged all these presidents regarding their position on this.
Those of you in the faith society,
Yeah.
those of you in that community, there's the accusation that you are really taking us into a country that's of a religious leaning, and that we are a secular state. We do not necessarily have to follow your dictates.
I think there's a fundamental mistake. Secularism does not mean godlessness. Secularism is not synonymous with godlessness. What it means is that one religion will not be made the dominant religion such that its rules suppresses all others. That's what it means. But Ghana, like we all know, is a very godly country. You might interpret it the way you like. And that is why, in the swearing of our oath, we swear and end up, whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim traditionalist, you swear in our courts. Our oath of office done reference to religion. Our national anthem makes reference to God. Our national pledge makes reference to God. We finish it, so help me God. These are expressions at state level that indicates our religiosity as a state. So I think it's a fundamental mistake for people to say Ghana is a secular state and so we must be godless. I think it's a fundamental mistake.
Now, I'll come back to you on this one, but I've just been having conversations with two very fine gentlemen on the phone. The very first one is a former General Secretary of the Christian Council, and the same accusation that the people of faith have been accused of, what the Christians have also been accused of, that they are basically importing their values and making it national values and pretending that we should go in that direction. So you're welcome back, Reverend Dr. Ponifrimpong, who is a former General Secretary of the Christian Council. And I also do have, and I understand, we lost him briefly though, Professor Vladimir Chidanso, who is the Dean of the Ghana Armed Forces Commanders Staff College. Prof, you're also welcome back. Well, yes, I guess we can proceed on that path. Prof, I lost you at the point of whether or not, of all the conversations happening in the world, it is no longer being recognized as a problem by the WHO. The argument is that people who are different, minority groups, ought to be respected, and so their rights, which they consider to be human rights, which is gaining acceptance from virtually every international body, ought to be accepted by we in our part of the world. And that we can't be a parallel state. We cannot detach from the states that are promoting democracy and development and also sustainable development goals by doing the things we are doing. Well, the phone line's not being very friendly this evening, but I should be able to get back in there. It's a question that's been coming up consistently, that we are acting as if we are a backward state, a backward state that is seeking to criminalize what virtually every prominent, proper, advanced state has promoted and actually recognized.
I think that we are missing the point completely. And actually, the professors who came, I have close association with them, great respect for them. I was shocked when I heard the names that we had.
Why
because these are people that we've been working together with. I mean, they have respect for religion. Some of the organizations that they organize, they call us because of our religious background to also give our inputs into it, meaning that they know what religion can do and they influence the religion also wields. So for them to make a statement that seems to denigrate, or to water down religious values in respect of these matters, for me, was most unfortunate. These are people who were born into families. Into families wherein there was marriage between men and women, out of which they were born. And so the issue that we are dealing with fundamentally goes beyond just the call for human rights. You see, it is LGBT and other related states on this is an attack on the family. The family is a sacred institution, unit of society that God has made to ensure the continuous perpetuation of human species for God's own purpose. You see, life is not for just pleasure. LGBT hinges on the hedonistic principle of pursuit of pleasure. Let's ask the question, is it all pleasure that is worth pursuing and enjoying? It is the very fundamental foundation of society that has been attacked by this idea. Imagine how could we all have lived here if, like in the Christian ethics, which I studied when at the university. In Christian ethics, there's the Kantian principle of universality. I mean, for example, it said if you want to act on a certain principle that would wish that it can be universalized, made universal. For example, if you think when you are hungry, you must murder you must murder somebody, or you are poor, so you must kill and attack somebody before you become rich. Make it a principle, stretch it, that you too, when you are there and somebody is hungry or somebody is poor, can also come and kill you and take it away. Once you cannot go with this, then you must understand that. Yes. So the pursuit of pleasure principle is under this. And the attack on the family.
I'll get back to you on that. Forgive me. This is one interruption.
Yes.
I just need to, because I've been struggling with the phone lines. I'm told that finally Professor Nchudanso is on the phone line. Prof, I've been exploring that question about whether we are not being a pariah state by not identifying with the advanced in that particular category states who admit and support homosexual rights. In fact, the thinking is that for us to presume that these are not human rights, we must be a backward society.
Hello?
Yes, Prof, can you hear me?
Yes. The fallacy of the argument generally, I mean, I lost you somewhere when you were trying to say that advanced societies were a secular state and whatnot. Secularity does not mean persons who also hold views in the theological sense or in their various religious sense do not also have a right to criticize what will spoil their society in the first place. Then you talk about advanced society. Let me challenge you to show me how the so-called advanced societies, we are going to be pariah, fine, but how has the advanced society in the world been able to sell this idea to the Southeast Asian nations and or the Central Asian nations and or the Muslim world of the Middle East? Saudi Arabia is the biggest friend of the Americans. Why is this not being sold there in its entirety strongly that it is Africa, Ghana, for example, that they want it so much? So let us not think that because the so-called Western world has adopted it, then we have to adopt it or else to become a pariah state. That's ridiculous. That is very ridiculous. What will spoil our society must be accepted because it has been accepted by somebody. As I'm saying, every society has a way of gradually grinding upwards or downwards, depending on what they taste and what they think is part of their socio-historical development. And I'm saying, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights listed out all those rights. We have been adding on. Economic rights have been added on, environmental rights, all kinds of rights, most of which are not justiciable. Only the political rights are justiciable one way or the other. So how do you now say somebody is stealing? And that's what people are fighting. They are not saying that they don't have human rights. And becoming a pariah state, how do we become a pariah state when we believe that such a thing has not been properly focused? I still maintain that the WHO was not stupid when they at that time felt it was a medical condition, and I still insist a medical condition. If not, let me give you an example. Semenya, that athlete from South Africa, right?
Yeah.
She says she's a female. And they inspected everything about her. She has female, whatever it is. Then they want to debar her from participating in some sporting activity because the testosterone level in her is higher. So now the world knows that in male there are some levels and that you will be cheating if you have those levels. Why are they telling us that killing of people should not come onto us to level us up? I mean, it's ridiculous. Can't we see the politics behind the whole thing here, that they are able to sell their idiosyncratic ideas, their idiosyncratic feeling, the way their society is going, that we should go that way? That's what we are saying we are against. But as for whether it should be legalized or not, whatever it is, that's a different argument altogether.
The final question I have for you.
The argument whether it is a human right or not.
Very well. And you absolutely reject the arguments that it's a human right.
Yeah, yes, I'm absolutely on the side that it is not a human right. They have their human right. Nobody challenging them to that. They have their right to feel that way.
Okay.
But we are saying it doesn't have to be a right which I should adopt.
Now, the final question I'm asking you is on this current bill. Do you think the bill in its current form, or even the proposals all coming up, will either help shape it to solve or resolve the current quandary in this country about the status of LGBTIQ rights? Will the bill be the panacea to the problem?
I don't think so.
Well, I guess I've lost him there, but on the point that he said he doesn't think that the current bill will in any way resolve the problem of whether we are confused, we know what we want to do and how we want to recognize LGBT rights in this country. But you were earlier on making the point about you, the religious people, your role in society, and how, to all intents and purposes, it appears that you are forcing down your values, what you consider to be family values, on the rest of us. The counter-argument is that the societies where this is recognized, it has not degenerated. There's not been chaos. The society have not bent down merely because you believe some family values have been attacked.
Yeah, like I said, it is just like to say that because in certain countries, crime waves exist, and so therefore there's no need to enact laws that will outlaw those crimes, like murder. Murder is crime, but we still say it, and that's why we have law that should deal with it. So it doesn't mean that when we bring this law, it will mean that you never find such people who have such orientation. But we are saying that in our country, it is something that is unapproved. Yeah, that is exactly what we are saying. And
Professor Odugadepo says that there are no current laws that are really prohibit.
In fact, that is the reason why this bill comes in. In fact, that is the necessity.
But do you agree with her?
I agree. It comes, it arises because the law that exists
on unnatural canal.
Yes, it's not as tight and clear with respect to the coverage of this. You see, now you talk of LGBTQ plus. What it means is that it goes to infinitum. We do not know even other orientations that are going to follow. And you see, what makes us truly human is not the unbridled freedom and the pleasure we pursue in life. And I think that, take away religion, even as Africans, there are values that have held us together. That's why there are things that we say they are prohibited, certain things are permissible, certain things are in the balance, and so on and so forth. These time-honored values are what has held, and that is what gives us identity. People are talking, they say Ghanaian identity. What are those Ghanaian identity if we water down our values in order to imbibe what in our view, I think that a view which in my view is so limited. Look, development. So what is the confines of development? What do we mean by advancement? Advancement just in material life. But we are talking about things that is edifying to the human person. That is exactly what we are talking about. And so if you take this LGBT and you make the general rule, what we are saying is that it undermines the very existence of the family. The counter-argument is that Chapter 5 of the Constitution makes no provision for the restriction of personal liberties on the grounds of traditional Ghanaian customs, beliefs, and values. So the culture argument and the family values argument does not arise at all. And it justifies, this is what justifies or necessitates the review of the law in such a way that freedoms that go without responsibility can be restricted. Look, for example... But this is just a bill. It will be an act, finally. Exactly. But the act cannot be inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Chapter 5 is in the Constitution. Yes. That's why in Constitution, sometimes they will give you the parent law of provision, but under it, they give you subsections of the parent provision. In other words, though that one is there, in spite of that, there are other things that can come, which, if they are not, put in a certain tight context, will affect society. Laws are made in order to bring order in society. Laws are made in order to promote human development, to ensure discipline. But why would the state be interested in, as they put it, micromanaging sexual relations between two consenting adults? Yeah, it is because as a nation we have a common identity. When it becomes necessary... Why do you care what happens in the bedroom of somebody? Yeah, you see, once it happens in the bedroom of somebody and we do not know, that is your privacy. But to say it must be a practice which a state recognizes.
Is that what they're saying?
That's it. That's exactly.
But they have not asked for a bill to be passed. It is those of you who are seeking to restrict the expression of that asking for a bill to be passed.
What they are calling for is for the legalization of it.
Have they said so?
That is what they are saying. But that is exactly what they are saying.
Those opposed the bill, they've not made this argument.
Exactly.
Yet.
No. You see, it's
because there's
currently
no bill saying that admit us as gays into your country as people with human rights.
Impliedly, that is what it means. Impliedly. Legalize it, make it permissible.
Okay.
Allow it. And we make things permissible or impermissible through laws. So impliedly, leaving them means that our law in a way is recognizing and approving of the act. And the counter is that as a country that we all say we have certain common identity. Yeah. Our identity in what context, what is the matrix of our identity? Ask anybody who is a true Ghanaian, what is the matrix of the Ghanaian identity? And so when we say identity, what do we mean?
Is that? What exactly will be the matrix of our
identity? What exactly makes us
Ghanaians?
Ghanaian, yeah. Culture.
It's law, right? Is it not?
Law, our culture, our beliefs, all these things are put together, the way we dress, the way we eat. These are all things that one put together.
But we're not legislating in all of these areas. It looks like it's only the sexual relations we are interested in.
No. It is because it is what people are interested in. Now, there are so many other things we could give our attention to.
Yes.
Now, the international body is pushing down our throat a certain practice which they have approved.
But they say there are almost 54,000 people who are practitioners of this gay, lesbian, and all the other alphabets in this country. You can't dismiss them, right?
You see, the fact that the majority is doing the wrong thing doesn't make it right. And that's what is...
But could it be that can the same argument apply to those of you who are, because you are in the majority, people of faith, Christians, 70, Muslim, almost a huge number to combine. You're almost like 90% of the republic.
Yeah.
Those of you in the faith community. Isn't that why you are bulldozing your way with this?
No, we are not bulldozing. We are not bulldozing. We are expressing our position regarding a certain practice which we find obnoxious, which we find detrimental to the very values of our family institutions.
To be fair, that practice at worst happens in somebody's bedroom, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that. You see, it is, if somebody goes into his room and he's doing sins in his privacy, we have not seen that. Yeah. But for them to make it a public issue
and seeking recognition for their activity,
that is what we are saying, that as a nation that has a certain identity hinges on our beliefs and culture, we should not allow it.
Give me a second. Let me go and explore this point that you made earlier with Professor Vlad mentioned. So, Prof, the conversation reached the point where you did not think a bill in its current form, and which is seeking to promote proper human sexual rights and family values, is the way forward in dealing with the problem. Why so?
But the question is that every nation has a certain kind of morality. That is not just religious morality. It is the national effort, the national moral fiber. And so if you put religion aside and you put God aside, what is there in Ghana that accepts LGBTQI? So yes, because they are coming from a religious background, we are thinking, no, this is not theology, this is not theocracy. That's a wrong argument. They are all looking for that national moral fiber that builds a nation. So let us not think that because they are coming from that background. And even if that is the case, and we talk of LGBTQI as a human right, I kept asking the question, why is Saudi Arabia not being forced to pick it? Why is the Middle East not being forced to pick it? Why is Southeast Asia not being forced to pick it?
But those are not secular states, right? I mean, specifically, Saudi Arabia is an Islamic state. It's open, obviously known.
We are universalizing a certain program. Are we saying that over there we can't get people who are also feeling that way? So why are they forcing us? We are secular, yes, but our moral fiber does not allow us. Now, let me come to the question why I think
the bill,
legislation alone.
Yeah.
Legislation alone. I mean, we've got all kinds of legislation, but we need to educate the public. We need to cure them of their ailments. We need to make sure that there is legislation on armed robbery and that. Yes. You see, no, this LGBTQI thing is an emotive thing. And then the moment you want to criminalize it, people think, oh, you are after kind of. So whilst I'm not against legislation, I think that will not be the solution. I strongly suspect that I would have had a certain bill or included in the bill, not the criminalization as such, but adding that when we catch you or when you have a problem with LGBTQIA, you need psychiatric attention, and the state will pay for it. While the religious people also do their bit by changing such persons to God.
Okay.
While the society, the media also upholds this, and then we all help to shape them. After all, they say they are queer. After all, they say they are believing in something that is like, it's like a mirage. It's like, I have so much pity for them. But when we sing them into heroes, then we are worsening the situation. In any case, I have a feeling that the universalization is bringing about another dimension. That is, people who don't even feel that way, who don't have the condition, may want to practice it, and that's dangerous for the nation.
But the final question I'm asking you is on this point. So, for clarity's sake, you are not against the current bill, but I do not think it's the panacea to the problem dealing with that ought to be dealing with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well,
we must go beyond the bill.
Okay.
Sheikh and I and everybody.
Well, unfortunately, maybe the rains are the main elements. But I think his point is clarified now.
Yeah,
He's not saying that the bill is not good.
Yes.
He says we should go beyond the bill and do more than that. But
Yes.
in the bill, there are suggestions for dealing with psychological and other things too.
Oh, yeah. I do not have the basis to indicate that somebody has a psychological problem.
Okay.
That's why he's doing ABC.
Okay.
I only see that the person has a moral challenge.
Okay.
It's a moral challenge, and as a moral challenge, it's also a malady. It's a moral malady that he might need the support. So what we can say, not to hate.
Do we do that to all people with all moral maladies? For example, those who are engaged in adultery, for instance.
Oh, these things have been done. The churches are doing it. The mosques are doing it. Even
Yeah, but there are no laws
that
that are dealing with people who are engaged in adultery, for instance.
Well, now if you go to other countries, they have.
Yeah.
But
we are not doing it in this bill.
well, but
so
at least,
why gays and not adultery?
No, even with that, that's why, for example, in my religion, for example, if you are adulterous and you go and then you give birth to a certain child, we call that child an illegitimate, which our law does not agree, but we call that child
an illegitimate child. But my only difficulty is that, Sheikh, you have not proposed that we should actually deal with adultery within the laws too.
Well, yes, because maybe it has not become an issue to many people to raise. But as far as our religion is concerned, we see it as a moral aberration that needs to be dealt with. And if you go into my law, for example, the law of what we call fornication and those things have been made so clear. But you see, sometimes too, we also want to indicate that don't just use the law unnecessarily on people, but that educate them, use the compassion of God to really target them for reform of their lives. And that's exactly what we are calling, even in the case of the case.
Those who are opposed to the bill, they are saying categorically that regardless of all the fine things you have written in there by helping people with such a situation and all of that, you really are targeting at exposing them and selecting them for attacks and also making sure that they are discriminated against. So that's the intent of those who promoting the bill.
No, it is not the case. You see, it's just like you are saying that when we make a law against those who are practicing galamsey, for example, is discriminatory, because what they are doing is they are earning from it. But once it is destructive to society, to the country, the state will have to enact a law.
How is people, what they do in their bedroom, destructive to society?
Yes.
That question, I don't get your answer.
You see, I have answered you, assuming it becomes the general practice. It is an attack.
Is there a fear that it will become a general practice?
It will. You see, it is there.
Sheikh, I presume you are heterosexual. You are, right?
Yes.
So am I. Are we at any risk of being gays because other people are gay?
You see, you and I at our level, probably we've hit such a certain level. Our conviction, our faith are strong. But the generation behind you.
So it's to protect the next generation.
I bet you, look, for example, let me use this example. I sit down now. I have a daughter.
Okay.
The daughter is called Fatima.
Okay.
Now, one day I'm just in my room. Fatima enters into the room. So, Daddy, no, I think I have a certain feeling in me that I'm not a female. I'm not a female. Or my son, my son Abdullah or Bilal, one day comes to confront me and tells me, no, I don't think I'm a male. I'm a female. I'm going for surgery for me to be turned into a female or a male. You see, what this will mean to us is that, you see, our family, generations behind us, are now deviating from the very values that have held us together. I, their father, was born into a heterosexual family where I had a father and have a mother, the mating of the two of whom now brought me into existence. And I perpetuate that family line through what I also do, and so on and so forth. And somebody comes to tell you that, no, I'm in my family, we will marry man and a man.
I'll take a break. When I come back from this break, we'll be concluding our conversation on what's the way forward. Are we convinced Parliament will pass this bill? I'll be asking those for it. Those against it says it should be thrown into the dustbin. And we'll be asking what's the way forward. If Parliament passes the bill and the President says, I'm not going to assent to it, what will you do? That's the kind of conversation we're having after this break. You welcome back to our front. My name is Raymond Alkwa. My guest today is the spokesperson of the National Chief Imam. He's also with the Peace Council, Sheikh Aremeyaw Shaibu. In concluding this conversation, there are those who have pinpointed the realities on the ground. So now there's opposition to the bill from very prominent civil society groups and also prominent academics. There are people who are drawing interest lines across the board and saying that those of you for this bill are fighting a battle bigger than you. It has international funding. It actually has international interest. Big money, deep pockets, perhaps the most prominent, advocacy group in the last century or so are the ones behind this LGBTQ pushing. Can the small state of Ghana withstand it? Can Parliament withstand this? It's also important to know that one of the initial people who sponsored this bill was the Deputy Minister of Education, but he's gone quiet on it. Reverend John Fojo. Yeah. He's gone quiet on it. If it becomes an MPP NDC matter, will this bill see the light of day?
I hope that the issue doesn't become reduced to a partisan battle. I hope that. Because I want our politicians to understand that they are into politics for a purpose. They are not into politics for themselves, because politics is a way by which you seek public office in order to render meaningful service for the advancement of your country, including what relates to your values and identity as a people. That's exactly the basis on which we have crafted our own constitution. Okay. So I think that I will be sad if on this matter they get divided and they made it an MPP-NDC issue, because there are other matters on which they have been united. Yeah. And I expect them on this particular matter, they don't get divided. The other issue that has to do with the deep pockets, I think that regardless of that, that's why I want even those powerful academic gurus. These are people that you must respect for their academic attainments and the role they have played in civil society. I think they must review their position, think deeply, take a soul-searching, travel into their inner world and understand the implications of this kind of practice. This issue is not an academic issue. Okay. It's not just an academic issue. We all can go to school and learn all the big English, but it doesn't make us truly human. But education only enhances. But there are true things that hinges on and true beliefs and values that have held human. Go to all civilizations that have made advancement. They have built their advancement on certain held strong values that have held them together.
What will you do if it's not passed?
Well, we will continue at any opportunity we get to condemn it as most reprehensible, objectionable, not befitting of the human person. We will want to educate our society for them to also accept the mindset of rejecting completely anything about LGBT and other related, the dimensions of which have not been mentioned here, and that's indicated by the plus.
Okay, very much so.
Yes. So, and then I agree with the professor who said that, legislation enough is not. So we can look at three angles. One, legislation is one. Two, education. Three, and counseling. Okay. Yeah. Let's take up this, religious bodies. You may not be a religious person, but you have a sense of decency, a sense of true human being, created for a certain purpose, not to pursue unbridled pressure or freedom in which there's no responsibility. And I think that people must be able to really come to terms with this kind of dangerous trend where in modern day world we talk of freedom or the right to freedom, in which case there's no restriction on. You see, that is...
There's a final question, because they say my time is almost up. This question is about what the president will do. There are those who are saying that it is clear that from what Gabi Asare-Ochedaku is saying and other people within the NPP are saying, the president of the republic would reject it, even if Parliament goes ahead to...
I hope he doesn't reject it, because, when the wave began again, and previously, there was a call, and I think that I made a call on behalf of the Chief Imam for the president to come out and make a statement about it. And he did. He did. So as long as in his government, he will not...
legalize gay marriage.
Gay marriage. Yeah.
But he didn't support this bill.
But no, once he has made a statement, we think that it's a step in the right direction. We need to push him to a level where he will be part and parcel of the process that sees this bill, being passed.
You think if he doesn't assent, it will not be acceptable?
He must accept to it because, you see, that's why he's our president. In fact, not him alone. Any president that comes after him. Okay. It can be any other president who the previous ones have shown their position. He has shown. We expect that anyone who comes also, because, you see, they are like paramount chiefs who are repositories of our values.
Sheikh, we should do this conversation again because I'm told my time is up. Well, folks, that's where we end today's edition of UPfront. My name is Raymond Akwa.